You wrote recently about engaging with potential interstellar AI in your most recent article on Medium. You said other civilization reached the science AI turning point, or no, excuse me. You said, but there's a protocol of engagement with them that we need to worry about. If we ever discover AI equipment from another civilization in our sky, we should first examine it remotely and passively using telescopes and cameras to detect reflected or emitted light. The initial goal would be to infer the information that the extraterrestrial AI system is seeking and how it responds to our actions. Any engagement should be postponed to a later time. Once we gather sufficient information about the system's nature and intent, we will likely need help from our own AI systems, just as we rely on our kids to explain complex content on the internet because they're more computer savvy than we are. So I have a couple questions about this. One, do you think one of the most fascinating cases that I've ever run across, and that actually inspired me to look into this again in my 40s, was the Alex Dietrich, David Fravor Tic Tac incident. Do you think this could potentially be the sort of AI that we're looking for? And then my second question is, if it were a black op and Galileo project were to discover it, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, so that's an excellent question. And I think we first need to adopt a passive approach, basically just examining reflected light or light emitted as a result of the heat on the surface of the object, and try to figure out what kind of information is this object seeking? How does it respond to what we are doing? That would be the first thing I would do. I would not engage with the object because we don't know what it is, what its intent is. I should caution also that, the Trojan horse in the story of Troy, that looked very innocent at first. And then, of course, it was realized that it serves a different purpose. So I do think that it's prudent to figure out first, as much as possible from passively looking at an object before deciding how to engage. Because, a group of people in the Galileo Project, let's say 100 people, should not decide the fate of humanity, but
that's a big deal, right? I mean, we're laughing, but that's hugely important.
No, so I think we should just collect passive data, okay? And so once we get as much data as possible, we want to analyze it and figure out what the object intent is. And of course, nobody has a protocol for what to do because it's not being discussed in the United Nations or elsewhere. It's something to be thought about. I think it's rather than a matter of national security, it's a matter of international security. Now, I have several reasons to be an optimist. If they were aggressive, they wanted to cause damage to us, they could have done it before we became technological. They could have done it long ago, right? So the fact that they haven't done it means, they don't really care about it. They are not particularly threatened by us. And it's sort of like we are looking at microbes. We are not threatened by microbes. We can examine them and check out what happens to them, but we are far superior. So that would be my guess, that they are peaceful because they are not threatened by us. The second thing is aggressive equipment might suffer a lot of damage from confrontation, physical confrontation, and may not survive very long as peaceful equipment. So it's possible that they are peaceful because of Darwinian selection. These are the ones that survive, and they don't engage in confrontations. And finally, I think we should try and figure them out in a way that is peaceful. That should be the underlying assumption, and then learn from them, because it's possible that we can teach ourselves something that will take us a long time to figure out by ourselves, and we might indeed need to use our AI systems to do that. But altogether, it's a learning experience, and I think it's the biggest question in science. I think this is something that can affect humanity for many generations to come. And how many questions in science are of this type? Most questions are very narrow and affect perhaps some specific aspect of our life, including all the equipment that we are producing, including medical procedures that we deal with, including the welfare, the health system that we are establishing. And all of that is here on Earth, very limited. If you think about this has major implications for a much bigger picture of the future of humanity. And it just strikes me as completely inappropriate for the scientific community to ignore it.